Today, our program is Mr. Hunter Taylor. He wrote a book on Draw the Line. This time, Mr. Taylor is up here.
Well, you know, it's not very often that you get a chance first to just say thank you to some people, and one of the first ones I need to say thank you to. Hello? One of the first ones I need to say thank you to, and I asked him to come with me, is Coach Metzel. And so throughout this process, and I'll kind of give you some backstory on the process, you got to have somebody that can, A, keep it a secret, which he did, and was just so great about that, who could give you feedback on if you were off on something, and then also could just help you on like kind of putting the pieces together, the dots together, getting access to more people just to get more interviews and collect that, all that kind of stuff. And so Coach Metzel, I think you already know what a treasure that you have is him being the athletic director and head football coach for what he does on the field, but as I'm sure you all know, he does so much more, and I've just never met anybody that's that accessible, that literally walks day to day, moment to moment, and lives their faith out like him. And he's I think one of my favorite things that's come out of this project is I got a really, really close friend out of it. But I want to first acknowledge him and say thank you to him. So again, Coach Metzel, if y'all give him a hand. So this came about, the title of the book is called Draw the Line. I'll give you a little rundown on where the title came from, that kind of stuff. But kind of the origin story, if you will, was about 6 years ago. I always, I had to do a dissertation for my doctorate. That was kind of my first big piece that I had to write. And I was coaching basketball at the time. I'm originally from White Oak, which I hope is okay. My father was a coach, a long-time football coach in the area. My mom worked at Pine Tree. We were school district people, you know, and we lived in a community where I had a group of coaches that surrounded me when I was a kid, where I knew who they were when I was in third grade, and I knew who they were when I was a senior in high school. I thought that was very rare. And, you know, I think society's changed a lot. You know, we move around so much more, people change jobs, etc. But I think I'd always thought and valued that and wish I could display that accurately in another piece that I thought, you know, more people would identify with. So I'd say that was always in the back of my head. But anyway, I was a coach for a little while and ended up kind of also chipping away at my doctorate when I was at Baylor. And when I got to the dissertation piece, my compliance would not let me write and do a study over basketball. I was a basketball coach and I was working for Scott Drew, and they thought it could be perceived as cheating to do a deep dive into some other programs, whether it's high school or college. And so I went back to my advisor and I asked, can we get permission? I knew that I had such great respect for my father and his friends and some coaches I had. I said, let's do one over high school football programs. I understood what that meant for the state in certain towns and communities where that's a big deal. That's a kind of a rite of passage for a lot of people to go through. It's a rallying point. And so we got permission to do that. One of the spots that we did it was, we had 6 cases, one of them was Gilmer. And I can remember going through that process, and it was more of a shallow dive than a deep one that I got to do with this. But going through that, knowing Jeff a little bit, and him being so generous, Jeff was the most transparent of the other head coaches I worked with, and they were phenomenal too. But Jeff was so transparent about his staff. And we were talking, I was talking with Brandon just a second ago, growing up, I mean, again, people have more relationships across towns and communities than they did back when I was a kid, when I was a coach, all that kind of stuff. So I never knew about Al Metzel, Matt Turner, Todd Barr, Keith Tate. I knew Coach Tate a little bit from basketball, but I just didn't know that much. And so, like, you have somebody start to unpack, you know, these unbelievable high character people who are obviously gifted teaching the game of football, but do so much more. And I can remember going through that process, learning at time, and thinking, wow, it would be something to do like a full-on deep dive and try and capture the essence of this, because I thought their story and their staff stories connected so many dots on what makes, I think, East Texas so unique. And it's only one aspect of East Texas. I don't think football generalizes the whole area, but it is an important part of what makes our culture so unique. And I transitioned into being a professor at Ole Miss, and this was the first thing I wanted to tackle with one of my first big publications. Is I wanted to write a book, and I wanted it to be over a subject matter that would capture some methods that I thought other people could replicate in other contexts and do some really cool things for their school district. But I also wanted to tell a story of when you leave home, and we talked about this a little bit. When you leave home, there's like this weird kind of like I don't know if it's just you're trying to understand and tell others what makes your area so distinct. And I thought a football story would do a good job of I think how I could describe where I'm from to friends and family. And so going about this book and this doing the research for it, I mean, I just did not expect it to be so rich, and get a chance to spend time and talk with people like your superintendent, people like your mayor, all the different teachers and coaches, all this kind of stuff. Get to talk with a couple of the players. It took me forever to work on this thing too, because when you want to write something and your name's on it, and also that you're from a certain area, you want to get it right. And so this took me a little over 5 years to fully put out. A lot of people were involved in it. I had a tremendous editor on helping me shape it to tell the story. And here's kind of the gist of it, okay? What we tried to capture with this book, I say with 3 main goals. And I'll give you the first big one, overarching, is what I kind of just shared. Trying to capture what makes East Texas so unique. And so if this gets in the hands of somebody from another part of the state or another part of the country, they understand what's going on with this specific region. And I thought this book, I thought the staff's story, a lot of the history behind it, it led itself in a way where I could connect what was happening here to other places in East Texas. So I want to make sure y'all are the lead character. Don't get that twisted. But it was so fun to try and intersect communities like Jacksonville and Marshall and Carthage and Longview and just different setting stories, Big Sandy, to where I think there were some important things that happened there. And I thought our region sometimes gets overlooked when you're talking about the state of Texas. And I thought having such a proud program could lend itself to be able to tell a lot of other stories at the same time. So that was the first biggest goal with trying to capture this. The second one, I've read a ton of books. You probably have too. And I love sports books, coach books, that kind of thing. I've never read a book that was about a staff. I read a book where it's mostly just like the head coach and then the quarterback, right? And those are the two that kind of tell the story. Those are the ones the most interesting. I thought it would be so much fun. Again, going back to my childhood, my father, I remember it was a group, it was a team. And I wanted to capture staff dynamics, their backstories, how all that worked together in unison to create something that was absolutely magnificent and lasted for a long period of time, hopefully for a whole lot longer period of time going forward. And so I loved capturing, obviously Jeff and then Coach Betzel, all these other guys, their origin stories, if you will, kind of how they got together, what happened, and then ultimately when Jeff left and some other people left, just seeing how the program still thrives, but they're also giving ways for other programs to kind of grow, and then to even see that being done on the college level. I think that's a magnificent case study for other people to see. How do you keep so much talent together for so long? And I thought we got some fantastic commentary from your superintendent and also people talking about that. Talent retention is a big topic right now. I'd say that's the second one. And then the third goal, if you will, was the 2014 season. And that there were enough human interest aspects of that story. That's probably a story in itself. I just chose, I think, to try and combine all 3. When you watch collectively kind of the best aspects of a small town, how they grieve together when something really bad happens, and people pitch in, and then how ultimately you finish that year and people celebrate together in a way that only a small town can. That's really cool. And then I thought there were just some great human interest characters, if that, from the quarterback, Chris Boyd, Blake Lynch, all that kind of stuff. I just thought there was so much. That was a story in itself. And so those were the three themes, if you will. The title of the book and the cover of the book comes from that iconic Gladewater game that was in Lobo Stadium. And so I know the mantra, draw the line, was something that they had, something that they had gone over together and prefaced with their guys leading up to the game, that there's going to be a moment in the game going up against a tough competitor where you're kind of going to have to draw an imaginary line in the sand, or whatever you want to call it, and you're going to have to stop a great opponent, whether that's Dalen Mack or, that's something even imaginary in your head of just conquering an opponent. And they did it. And again, I know so many people that, one of the first people that showed up, we had a book signing on Saturday. It was the only pre-sale we did. We had a couple people bring up and they were talking about that game. That was like the lead-off thing they wanted to talk about, how they left too early, or they were there right when all that stuff happened. And anyways, I can just tell we thought there were so many unique things about this story. Thought it represented the best not only of a town, but also of an entire area. And I think, I'm not from Gilmer, but I am a fellow East Texan, and I always look for, I think it's just a great story that represents the best of all of us. And I was really proud to write it. It had a lot of help, and I want to make sure those people feel a part of it too, because I think we told a great story. So, you want me to take any questions or anything like that? Okay.
When is your book going to be out for sale for publication?
Yeah, so June 28th. So next Tuesday, it's officially released. And then we're going to have an in-person event.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
And why don't you show them the book, Hunter?
Yeah.
So you guys.
So do you have any to buy today, or?
I don't, because we didn't have all the stuff needed for the sale transaction, all that kind of stuff. So we did one pre-sale event. That was just because 80 Acre Market, they wanted it for Father's Day. It was the one thing we could do. But on June 28th, it'll be available for sale. June 30th, at Duds on the Lake. I'll turn that over to Anna.
You can buy it then, I'll tell you where you can buy it, and we're gonna roll this out bigger this week and next week, but, at Duds on the Lake, we're gonna do a meet the author party. I understand that Jeff may be there as well.
Jeff's gonna be there.
Jeff wrote the forward in the book, so it's a great opportunity to get them both to sign it. I want one for my dad, I want one for my brother, but we're gonna have, obviously, Coach Metz will be there. It's gonna be a pretty packed house. We're partnered with CUTX on donations for sort of a food, happy hour appetizer kind of thing option. It's a great time to get to talk to them both personally, check the book out, and obviously everybody in Rotary will get an invitation. Karen's not here, but I'm gonna have her send that out to everybody. So just let me know, or Hunter, if you have any questions about that, and we'll do details shortly.
What was the date, Anna?
It's next Thursday, the 30th.
30th.
It'll be from 5:30 to 8:30. Just kind of come and go. Talk to these gentlemen. If you know anybody that's a past fan, a current fan, or a past player, please ask them to come with you, because we really want this to be like just a celebration of the attention that Coach Vessel's program is getting, and just East Texas in general as a community. So please bring them and let them get caught up with everybody they know and their past coaches and teachers and so forth, and bring your family to that kind of event.
Can you tell a good Jeff Traylor story?
A good one. I thought the Jacksonville chapter is really informative. And so it's like when he's under Coach Danny Long. I don't know how many people know Danny Long. I knew of him when I was a kid or when I was coaching. And so you kind of have an idea of what he's like. And he was just exceptional, just a great storyteller. But talking about right time, everybody's looking for a mentor, right? It's somebody that loves them unconditionally, but also teaches them the trade. And I thought that both of their accounts on how that relationship was during Jacksonville, it was very entertaining because they're both funny and talk about how they were treated differently, all that kind of stuff. But you just tell how influential Danny was for Jeff in Jacksonville, but also for Matt while he was there. And how important Matt is to Jeff's overall ascension. And again, I thought, wow, this is so cool and that it connects. They were previously in Jacksonville, but they also learned under Dennis Parker in Marshall. And we forget, in the late 1980s, 1990, how important that Marshall program was at that time. This is right when Friday Night Lights, the book's authored, and you're talking about that season where they actually fly into Marshall, Texas early that season. Marshall beats them 13-12 with Odell Beckham's dad playing running back, and there's just a lot of there's so many great stories that are through, I'd say, all these people's accounts. It's really fascinating.
Could you comment on how high school football coaches today are influencing and are getting into college football in Texas, and how successful they are in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, there's an account where we talk about how, Coach Chad Morris was an East Texan, and obviously he got up to the SEC, and, he and Jeff are close, et cetera. But I think Jeff's a great case study of the methods that are used here collectively. They work in different contexts. And so I think there are certain courses here that are also embedded at UTSA, and just there's some different rule changes, right? So there's different aspects added to it, whether from recruiting or different compliance things that they need to brush up on or whatnot, but I think it's the same guts, if you will. So I think it's a great case study to show that it transfers, and that if athletic directors wanted to look at, more Texas high school coaches, particularly some of the excellent masters that are here in East Texas, I think it's a risk worth taking based off of what Jeff showed.
And we're pretty lucky this close to football season that Jeff has made the time to come back to Gilmer. It's a great time to come out and wish him and his team good luck for this upcoming season as well. In person, it'll probably be the last chance we get to see him around here for a while. We've got some kids who want to play for him this year that you guys watched all season this last season. We hope they come out too, and it's a great time to kind of just send them off with sort of a hometown hoorah around the book about the program. So I think it's a perfect scenario. Thanks, for being there.
Any other questions?